Recording in progress.
All right, hi everybody. Sorry about that, a little technical issue on our end. So we'll get started here in just a couple minutes. Lindsay's, in just a minute actually, Lindsay's gone through and given everybody recording ability. If you don't have it, just send us a message in the chat and we'll be happy to help you out with that. If you have questions for Kevin, just raise your hand in the participants tab and I'll write in the chat who has the next couple questions. Kevin, I see you there okay? Can you hear us? Audio working for you?
Yep, I got you, Chris.
All right, perfect. We'll get going with the first question. Lance, go right ahead.
Hi, Kevin. A little unrelated, but with the 12-week period of rest complete for Jack Eichel, what are the next steps in terms of his recovery or treatment?
Yep. You hit the nail on the head. I think we're right in that 12-week mark that I laid out the last time we spoke. So there'll be, for me, a lot of information gathering over the next few days, speaking with our doctors, speaking with Jack's camp, and just kind of where we go from here. So don't really have an update, but it's going to be coming here in terms of information that I get in the coming days. I think it is important just to mention our doctors and their expertise. They're just still not comfortable with any type of surgery that's never been done on a hockey player before. So that's kind of what I said before, and that hasn't changed.
Hey there, Kevin. I wanted to go into deeper with something you mentioned on the national call on the #1 pick. Tell me a little bit about the process of debate, how much that's going to be a real challenge and flashpoint and an interest level for you with your whole organization, because this is not a consensus pick by any stretch of the imagination. How important is that going to be for you as an organization to have that debate and really kind of go at each other to get this pick selected?
Yeah, Mike, I got to congratulate you. You're doing 2 jobs tonight. You got the Blue Jays game. I can hear the crack of the bat in the background, I think. It's good. No, you know what? It's a great question, and it's, to me, a really critical part of any decision you make, to be honest, not just this big, #1 overall pick decision, but I think it's really important to have debate, understand different thoughts from different people. And what I mean by debate is healthy questioning of each other, and not being afraid to be able to back up opinions, that scouts have for reasons, and then to challenge them on that, and then they push back. I think that's really a good thing, Mike. So you're right. There's a number of players at the top of this draft to work our way through. And I'm looking forward to that process. I said earlier on the national call that I really enjoyed the amateur process last year. I really enjoyed going through that, kind of learning about the different players and projecting. And you guys know, these are 18-year-olds. You're not just looking at next year, you're projecting what you think they can turn into 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And that's certainly a challenging part of this job.
Kevin, I did hear. It's Adam Benini. How are you, man?
Hey, Adam.
I did hear you on the national call, and I'm assuming you'll address the draft another way. My question is also unrelated, like Lance's. Coaching search, just any kind of update. I mean, there've been reports, names like Boudreau, Tocchet, and you're going to take your time. To whatever degree of detail you can give us, kind of where you're at in that process right now.
Yeah, I think it's, for me right now, I'm certainly happy to confirm names. If you ask me, I'd probably prefer not to get into specifics on people. It's kind of out of respect for this process. And some of the people I've talked to are, maybe they're coaching other teams at other levels, and you don't want their names necessarily out there. So for me, it's probably just better to talk bigger picture about the process that we're going through. Like I laid out before, I really think it's important to talk to a lot of different people, which we have done. Myself and Jason Carmanos have kind of met with people from NHL experience background, American Hockey League. We've talked to college coaches. We've talked to people with European backgrounds, and we're continuing to go through that. And I think for me, I've learned from every one of those conversations. We'll work our way through a number of people, like, I kind of laid out before. I don't have a timeline of exactly when this will wrap up, but then we'll narrow it down and get a little bit further into the weeds and some maybe specific hockey type questions and fit and, kind of go that direction. So that's really the update real time where we're at. We have had a number of discussions with a number of different people and more to come, but I've enjoyed the process and I've learned from every one of the conversations.
Hey, Kevin, as you said, you're going to chat with Jack in his camp. What do you expect to hear from them? And if the rest hasn't worked, you said you don't want surgery. What did the doctor suggest should be the next step for you guys?
It's hard for me to answer that question, John, because I need to speak with Jack's agents and Jack himself and just kind of understand where they're at. I think what's key to focus on is, like I talked about before, everybody agreed that the 12-week kind of rehab was the first step in this process. So now I don't have the information to say to you, here's where we go from here. Jack may have had some other thoughts over these last few weeks, but so we'll see. That's the next conversation, right? Okay, where are we at? What are the doctors saying? Where is Jack's thought process and all of this? And then, then we'll go from there.
Hey, Kevin, I know this is like incredibly preliminary considering you found out about an hour ago where you were going to be drafting, but I'm wondering, with your early scouting that you guys have done, how immediate of an impact do you anticipate the player that you can select make? I mean, with players, Jack Eichel, Rasmus Dahlin, Connor McDavid, all those guys, like we knew they were going to play in the NHL right away. From the stuff that you guys and the research you've already done, does it seem like that's going to be the case this time around also?
I think that, Matt, there's potential for that, but I just think it's so tough to say right now, because what we'll talk about internally and from our standpoint as an organization is what is best for this player and what is best for our franchise, not just in the short term, but the long term. So you're balancing all that. And there's so many different things that come into play. Some of it could be physical maturity. Some of it could be mental maturity, and you just don't want to rush someone. But what I can promise you is a couple things. One, you won't hear out of this organization any sort of information on who we're going to take. I promise you that. And the second one is we will not rush a player. If we think that player is absolutely ready to step into the lineup and it's best for their development and our team, then we'll do that. And if not, we'll have no problem, just whether it's number one or someone later in the draft. We have no problem with saying, okay, let's just make sure we slow it down and do what's right.
Excuse me, Kevin, the NBC cameras showed you, and you looked a little, I don't know what the word is, nervous, tense, whatever it was. You said, I guess, Terry Pagula texted you to smile. Just what were you feeling in those moments before the lottery, and how, just what was, the feeling when, it came up with Sabres #1?
Yeah, Bill, it's, I guess the best way to answer that is, I don't think I was as nervous as much as I was, my heart was racing a little bit and intense. And I guess the reason I probably looked like that was there was a lot going through my mind in terms of really, we want this to somehow fall our way. And I thought a lot about in those minutes, what kind of adversity we faced this past year and some of the challenges we went through. But I also, to be honest with you, in that short time frame, I was thinking about, Terry and Kim and, what they've done for this organization in this city. And this would be a great thing for them. And I was thinking about the people that work here every day that, just love this place so much and deserve this franchise to be great. And I was thinking about them and the work they've put in. And, I just, it's just, to me, this was an exciting night. And now we have to get it right. But that's, I guess, maybe why I looked intense, because those were the things kind of running through my head there.
Hey, Kevin. Sorry if I'm a little shouty. I'm at Salem Field, also just like Mike. I know Mike brought up just how unpredictable and kind of how uncertain things are with this draft, especially at the top. I mean, are you still expecting kind of the same volume of people, hitting up your phone and people trying to move up in the draft? Some people maybe trying to move down, or do you anticipate more teams are going to be trying to just kind of stay put because of just how uncertain things are with scouting and with, where guys may have players ranked on their big boards?
Yeah, I think part of that would depend on, every team's different. when it comes to, they may have a player they absolutely just, they think is the guy, right? And, or, you know, a mix of players. So, you know, I would assume that my phone's going to be pretty busy. I think what does make this draft unique in terms of the top of the draft is there are a number of players that could be discussed. You know, there's often drafts where maybe there's 2 or 3 that are kind of at this top of the list, and maybe the one is even right here, and then, you know, there's this mix the next tier. But I think in this draft there's a number of players to have discussions about, and you know, that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Hey, Kevin, John Worrell. Sorry, my wife is working upstairs, and it's the only quiet place in the house. So, but seeing how well your youngsters did to close the season, how much to get the number 1 pick and the potential assets you could get out of that, and knowing that there's some players that are unhappy with being in Buffalo who are currently could be assets as well. Does this give you some clarity, more clarity into maybe going with a younger team? You know, with going, I'm not talking about a major rebuild, but going younger.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned at the end of the year press conference, you know, I'm sure you saw it in my, you know, expression. I was energized by the young group of players at the end of the year, and let's call it that kind of young core that showed some growth. They showed some real, what's the right way to say it, character about being a Buffalo Sabre, and I think that's powerful. And I drew some energy from my end of the year meetings with those guys. And to me, this is about putting a group of people together that really care about each other, that really truly love this organization, that love that jersey, that love this city. And I know I've said this now for a year, but there has to be a connectivity between our organization, our team that goes on the ice, and our fan base. There has to be. And so when the players feel that and want to be here, and I think the fans feed off that too. So is that youth? Yeah, that could be part of it. But it's them growing up together, and then, you know, learning about each other at these young ages to say, hey, we're in this together and let's make this right. And so that to me is exciting. How we put it together over the coming weeks, I think there's a lot to be determined in that. But that is a key ingredient for me. People that want to be here, that believe in this organization, believe in what we're doing, and believe in the city, because I think that matters.
Before you get to the entry draft, you have the expansion draft. How would you say the organization is set up for that? And if your friend Ron said, hey, we wouldn't take Jeff and his salary, would you approach Jeff and say, would you waive your no move so we can protect someone else?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have those conversations. We already have had those conversations. And I think ultimately there's going to be a lot of kind of, let's call them different iterations of what the expansion protected list could look like. Because if we made a move before the draft, then it could change that list, you know. So I think there's going to be a lot of that type of conversation going on. You know, the expansion to me it's an exciting thing for our league. It's, of course, we don't want to lose a player, but it's part of it. You know, myself, I ended up, I was part of the expansion draft when Columbus came in, and I remember getting the phone call from the general manager in Toronto telling me I was exposed. I was disappointed, yet all of a sudden I was drafted, and I was part of a really cool experience. So there's a lot of excitement around that, and there should be. It's great for the league. But how it plays out for us, I think will be, you know, it'll go right towards the end of when we have to put the actual list together, because a lot can change between now and then. And those type of things you brought up, you know, those are conversations we'll definitely have internally, and then, you know, we'll go from there.
Kevin, have you had any discussions with Ron? I know, you know, the Sabres wanted to keep Linus Ullmark when Vegas came in, and it cost them a 6th round pick to do that. Would you be open to something like that, of giving up a draft pick to maybe direct Ron in a certain direction on your roster?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely something you have to be open to. And that was a little bit of the strategy on building up draft picks once where we were in the standings and we had to pivot this year. You know, so will we do that? I don't know. You certainly want to use your draft picks, but if it was the right thing for our organization, then we would potentially be interested in that. I have spoken to Ronnie many times. and just kind of, sharing, asking him questions about his thoughts. He's asked me about, where we're headed in certain ways, but haven't gotten down the road far enough yet on exactly players, because still a lot could change. I think he's still going through that process on their side as well. So, I think from his standpoint, when he looks at our team currently constructed, he knows there's going to be players available to him, that are good hockey players. And I think that's what he's excited about.
All right, we're all set. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you everybody for your time tonight. Good evening.
Thanks, everyone.